So, hey everyone, welcome to People, Their Passion and Purpose. I am so excited about this interview I'm doing today. I'm going to welcome Shari Reinhart here. She has tons of experience, and let me just read out my introduction to her so that we can get to know her a little bit before we start our conversation. Thank you so much for being here, Shari. I'm really excited. Shari is a ghostwriter and developmental editor for memoir and other nonfiction categories. She works with coaches, business owners, and those on a spiritual and healing path with a story to tell. Shari's path to writing began by journaling for over 25 years. She was featured in many magazines, but it wasn't until she was invited to read from her personal journal on the Oprah Winfrey Show that she decided it was time for her to help other people to get their stories out there. We'll talk about that. That sounds really exciting. She is taking writing courses right now and will be actually certified in creative writing in March of this year. Congratulations. Talk about the learning never stops. It's really encouraging, really inspiring. Shari has been involved in the development and ghostwriting for over 25 books in 8 years, and knows that storytelling is healing, transformational, and brings inspiration to others. So, wow. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really grateful to share yourself with our listeners.
I appreciate the invitation, Charlene. Thank you.
So I guess just to start the conversation going is can you describe the moment that you knew you needed something to change in your life?
Yes, and I would say it was an accumulation of many, many moments,
Mm-hmm.
more like reflections. So I was raising my children. I was an older parent by most standards. So I had my first at 29 and my last at 39, 3 kids. So in those 10 years or so, I have to say I was just reflecting on my entire childhood and the kind of woman I am and who do I want to be. So that question
Mm-hmm.
came up, and I went through a lot of reflection, as I said, and I decided I really wasn't who I wanted to be, and I wasn't happy at all. So my husband's work took us, before I had my daughter, my third child, my husband's work took us to Tucson, Arizona for 18 months. He had a work mandate there. So I left my life here for the first time, here being Montreal, for those who don't know. And I uprooted my family and started a whole new temporary life in Tucson. And that opened my eyes to, oh my God, I'm surrounded by concrete. Literally 365 days out of my life. I have winter, which was the first time I missed a winter. We lived in a house, I have to say, that was on a full acre of land in the foothills of the Catalina Mountains in Tucson with nothing but cacti and that sky. And it felt like I was home. So I just felt that I had kind of, I know it's so corny and cliched, but a bit of a spiritual awakening. Like, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
like I can breathe here. No one's calling me and asking
Yeah.
me for things because I had no one around. My
Wow.
whole day belonged to me and
Mm-hmm.
my children and how I wanted to spend it. I wasn't worried about what I looked like, right? Like I would go
Mm-hmm.
on the street, who cared? I don't know anybody. I wasn't preoccupied with externals and came to myself. And then when I came home, that started me on this path of who you're
Okay.
meeting today.
Interesting. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny how life takes you to certain places and you're sometimes forced into a situation and you don't know what's going to come from that. So we
Yeah.
always have to stay open and open and
But that's exactly what I was going to say. I also learned how I went into that gave me
Mhm.
all the gifts that I just described and so many
Right.
more, obviously. Um, because I went in it with like, I'm excited. This is an adventure. This is a good thing. And I had the right mindset before I even knew what I was walking into for those
Mm.
18 months. It could have been
Yeah,
hell, but
yeah,
it turned out to be truly
exactly.
coming home.
I'm happy for you. That's great. So my other question was like, so we know like sort of how you got started. You went there and you came home and you said, okay, I'm starting on a new path. But how did you start that path? Like, what tools did you use? Did you get guidance? Who did you speak to? Is that a good question?
It's a fantastic question because from there, I came back
Hmm.
to my old life, but I was becoming a new me. I wasn't a new me
Hmm.
yet. I was growing into myself. I was really I asked all the existential questions. I was always deep. I was born old. I was born wise. I was born different. I was born the psychedelic sheep in the family. I was that person, but I denied all of it because you're not supposed to be that person. You're supposed to fit into all the family rules, the school rules, the social rules, etc. So what happened when I came back is I returned to journaling. I had abandoned it when I was happy
Mm,
with my boyfriend and then my husband and starting a family. And I returned to journaling, and that's with Oprah.
okay.
That's how Oprah kind of put out whatever, how I got my 15 minutes of fame there. And it was through the journaling that I was able to have my real life and my who am I exploration.
So
Right.
you were writing, yeah, so you were writing these journals. So you're a good writer. So you're writing these journals and then you were sharing it with these magazines, like home decor magazines and things like that. And then I guess Oprah picked it up. Like she must have seen it or one of her people must have seen it. How did, right?
Well, you know what, Charlene, actually, I was paid to write for these magazines. So I was
Okay.
articles. I mean, the pay was really crappy, but I was getting published and I really loved that. But it didn't feel like that was, I don't know, exciting, meaningful, or that my writing was even good because by the time the article gets printed, it's been
Mhm.
edited a million times. The title you give it,
Okay.
the title they give it. So it didn't really stroke my ego at all. So
Okay.
what happened is that at the time, the Oprah Winfrey Show, she had a website, and on the
Mm.
website, she had a forum where you could privately hold space. Like you can all, like there was a forum where you can communicate with other people using this platform. And you could also journal privately, and it would be a home to all your journals. So I was journaling on the computer at this point. And then she put out to us, who were members of this forum, the question, how did your journal writing change since 9/11? And boom, that is when I decided to share my writing and submit my journal entry. And I think, I don't know, 7 or 8 people were invited to read from their journals, and I was one of them.
That's so interesting. That's
Yeah.
nice. It's nice to know. And
Thank you card
so,
behind me.
yeah,
Thank you cards, and I have every issue of the O magazine. I mean,
that's
I'm over
amazing.
now, I'm good, but I needed to walk me through this transitional period.
No, that's amazing. It must have given you such a boost, and fun. What an experience. So that's great. Um, so when you were starting to journal, again, like I'll just go back to that. Did you work on your own? Did you follow other people? And did you get any help? And for this spiritual journey that you went on, just
Yeah,
what types of things did you go to
yes.
seek out?
Well, I am a seeker. I am someone who asks a lot of questions, and my focus of curiosity was on all of this. How can I enjoy my life? How can I be better, etc. The first book that I picked up that really opened me to new ideas of how to be was The Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz. It's a small, for those of you who don't know what that book is, it's a small little handbook. I mean, and the English is so basic and so simple because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was written in Spanish first. Don Miguel Ruiz is a shaman. And I read that book probably in 1999, I don't know, like a million years ago. And that started me understanding, questioning. just questioning, like,
Yeah.
why do I take everything personally? There are 4 agreements. One is don't take everything, don't take anything personally, be your best self, do the best you can, and to others, whatever they are. And they became my codes to live.
Mhm.
And
Very
then
nice.
speaking, and I've done workshops with Deepak Chopra and Elizabeth Gilbert, live workshops. I've done a lot of you know, you do that too. You
I
can
do. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I do a little bit of it. I mean, I don't know. I don't do it as much as you. I have always also been. I always question myself.
yeah.
I don't journal at all. But I have always questioned myself and always tried to understand, like, who am I, and what am I here for, and how can I serve? How can I serve? Yeah, how can I
Well,
serve?
it's interesting because that was never a question of mine. I think I had so much to unravel within myself that it was purely selfish.
Hmm.
And also for how can I be a better mom and wife? So it was very selfish. And then it extended just to my immediate family. And now I like, oh, forget it. Like I know how to serve. I know what I'm
Yeah,
good for. I've
yeah.
been told and I've been shown and I've been doing it. I know what I'm good for.
So when did you have that aha moment? Like, for people listening, maybe they're also waiting for that aha moment. They're looking for that aha moment that they found their passion and they found that their purpose, how they could put their passion to their purpose. Do you remember that
Well,
feeling, that moment?
Well, there were 3 things that contributed. The moment was when I finished with the Oprah episode and I was like kind of lavishing in the glory of wow. Um, I realized that I did need that external validation, which is
Mhm.
a strange thing because we talk about going inside for everything, but I needed that kind of you are good because like
Mhm.
picked you. So that got me started on um, wondering how am I going to use my writing? How am I going to develop that? The other thing that contributed to this path was I'm suddenly forgetting my 3 things, and they were very important to me.
That's okay.
The Oprah,
We can come back to it.
what I loved as a child. I returned to what I always loved to write, and then I abandoned it, and then I kind of was very unbalanced and not okay. So I put those pieces together, and I understood I am someone who needs a creative outlet. I chose writing, people choose dancing and whatever, and the flute. I chose writing, so I must never not write. And the third thing was a memory of my grade 4 teacher telling me, you have a talent. You have something to say. I was in grade 4. What was I, 10? Never stop writing. And I recalled that memory. So between Oprah, my grade 4 teacher, and then this need to always be creative, I just put them together and said, I'm going to package that. And
Yeah.
so it was the work. Because those
Wow.
passions,
Hmm.
they were validated.
And you've done, like, I noticed, because I know you for a while, and from a long time ago as well, when you had like women's groups and stuff. So for me, I see that you've had many passions along the way, and that you have, they each came with, like, as part of your journey. And perhaps you can just talk about a couple of other passions that you developed along the way, and made your own and got something out of it and helped you to get to this as well?
Well, that's such a good question, Charlene. My other passion
Good.
to this. Yeah, well, you did mention the women's networking group, which I did
Yes.
found and lead for 11 years. So within that group, actually, I was the student. I may have led the group. I may have brought us all together in this common goal of being entrepreneurs and being female entrepreneurs, which is very specific. But every meeting that we had, I learned from someone something. And it's not that, yes, some people were invited to speak. It wasn't so much the formal speaking, it was the roundtable conversations where we just let it all hang out and we were really just ourselves and being vulnerable. And I learned that without the self work that each of us need to do, We cannot have the dream career or business that we say we want. We can't because we get in our own way. And that was something that I had to unravel. And I was very passionate actually about learning more about that because it said so much to me about what I needed to do to be here today. It was a slow crawl to get here. It wasn't like this overnight thing. So it was learning a lot and listening a lot and understanding that everyone is a teacher. The other thing is I care really a lot about people. And, how does that show up in my life? Well, I'm a bleeding heart. I cry at the news, so I stopped watching news because it was tore me down. I cannot stand social injustices. Not that I am a marching on hills and protesting, but deep in my heart, it really takes me down. So I harness all of that. So everything just came together. That's why I don't write manuals for construction companies. That's why I write a very specific category book because it's my personal experience. It's what I continue to learn. And then I harness that for other people and help them do that for themselves.
So that's actually a great segue into talking a little bit about the books that you write with people. And I had some sort of like logistic questions for you,
Sure.
about so that people can think to themselves, can this work for them? Or, yeah, is this something that they think they would like or need in their life that will help them get to where they want to go? And so when you write a book for somebody, what does that look like? Like how long does it take approximately? Obviously there's average times. And if you can explain that process a little bit and where you come into that, where your passion and purpose come into that.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
I really thought it would work. Okay, here, this is the model, right? So I'm going to meet a client and we're all going to fit everything into this model and this like system. No, because people come to me at various stages of their book from knowing they have to write this book and having a great idea of what it's supposed to be, but not a word on paper. And also from not a word on paper, will never write the book and needs me to do it for them. So that's a different format. One is they're writers already. They know
Okay.
exactly what they want to say, but they don't
Okay.
know how to go through that process of turning it into a book. The other one is like, for example, I'm working with an 80-something-year-old man right now who wants to tell his rags to riches story. He says, I'm not writing one word. So, I had already developed a system where we record everything and I write and we go back and forth. It's quite tedious, but it works, and that's pure ghostwriting. And then I have people maybe like yourself who would come to me and say, I know I want to write a book. I need help doing it. I haven't even started. Let's figure this out. And then we figure it out who you are and what your needs are and where your strengths lie and where you need me to hold you up, let's say. So it becomes a very intense and intimate partnership. And we really get to know it. And I've made friends with many of my clients like that. And then there are people who've written their books. So I come in and I just help them, feel like really good and ready to publish.
Right.
So it's very high level editing. Like I don't do line by line edits or what have you. So the process really is intense. Um, and it varies where client writes first, I write second, we clean up a third time set aside.
Okay.
Or ghostwriter, I write it all, they approve, they disapprove, I do all the editing and cleaning up and what have you in
Yeah.
addition. We set it aside. And then, yeah, and we do chapter by chapter or chunk it a bunch of chapters at a time. And it takes, at the minimum, with a really highly motivated client, 8 months. But
Okay.
I have a client now where we're dragging on 2 years.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
You meet people where they're at, and you use all your experience and your own journey to be able to help people, extract what you need out of them. That's what's really important.
exactly like, so if someone's writing a deeply, um, a book about their trauma,
Mm.
traumas, and very often it goes back to childhood, depending on what stage of healing they're at. I'm not a therapist by any means. I will never, but I can sense where they have not done that work yet, and I can help them write about it. So although I am a conduit for
Hmm.
those who are willing to go that deep, because at the end of the day, when you write a book, Charlene, and I don't know if you're an avid reader or not, but you can always tell in a true story of some kind, some nonfiction book, where they're hiding, where they're kind of lying, where they're like don't want to show up completely. There are things that you can read between the lines and you can sense, and I don't like to let clients do that. So I'm
That's very interesting. Yeah, that's so interesting. I never thought about that, or that's really interesting. And it made while you were talking, it made me think about here you are taking on, and you're such an empath, and you're taking on all this stuff from everybody. So, can you go back to how you take care of yourself? Because this is a big problem with everybody, with many people, let's say. We're working, we're taking care of people, we're doing this, we're doing that, but we burn out, right? It's everybody, it's so common.
absolutely.
So, tell me about yourself, how you continue to do this heavy work.
I think we all really need to learn this about ourselves, where we're depleting our energy, like who we're giving it to or who we're letting take it from us. And with that awareness, it becomes a lot easier to harness and hold on to your energy. So listen, I still have a couple of areas where it just depletes. Generally with clients though, or all of us, I think when we go into a situation that could take an emotional toll on us, in hospital environments, for example, nothing bad has to happen. If I'm in a hospital, I'm like, my makeup sinks in, my shoulders, there is some, right? So we all have to know where those spots are. But I tend to go into sessions prepared. I clear energy, and I do that in a metaphorical way. I come in, I might just do a breathing exercise to shift gears from one activity into another. I mean, these are common tools that I think many of us know. We might forget to use them. I tend to not forget to use them. So a breathing technique is one. And
Okay. And what are some of the others? Because I think that, we hear about them all the time, but I think the more we hear about them, the more we're likely to try them and to know that people are actually using them. You're
yes,
not a yoga instructor. You're not a wellness and health and wellness coach. So
I am none of those
like,
things. I
so,
am
but you're
never,
using a lot of tools, and I know you are, so share them, please.
oh my God, I am so none of those things. I'm a wannabe health addict. Arlene and I talked earlier and I said, oh, I did the vegan thing for a year and I'm a wannabe vegan. I'm a wannabe many things, but one thing I am
Yeah.
good at grounding myself. So I'm just a regular human having her life the way all the rest of us are who might not be in the health and wellness world or fitness world. Um, but I will never start a day. I will never start a day without at least 1 hour to myself. If I have to wake up an hour earlier because my day starts earlier, it doesn't matter. I will never do that anymore. So an hour to myself could look like literally lolling in bed and maybe even mindlessly scrolling social media before I start my day, because then I don't have the desire or, I don't get the pull to do it. So really that's like, okay, I'll get it over with now until 5 or 6 when I'm ready to, so it could look as stupid as that. Um, I always stretch because I am over 60 and I'm very stiff. So I stretch because my body is asking for it. And that clears my mind, right? Like, right? I don't
Yeah, yes, 100%.
when
Yes.
you stretch, it's actually feels and I might walk on the treadmill. So I will do movement.
Right.
I will do mindlessness, which might be scrolling. I will do movement, which could be simply sitting in stretches. or cardio. I will do mindfulness, which means I will always take a minimum 10 minutes up to half an hour of meditation. That's my hour. I do that.
Great.
And you know what? I have
What?
read, I know it's fascinating. I developed this habit finally, and now it's become my daily practice. But I have read that so many of the most successful people and the busiest people start their day with some form of what I just described.
Yes.
So if you want to be successful, give yourself that
Yes.
hit before you
Yeah.
start.
And I think if I can just, also put in here that it doesn't mean that you have to have a successful business or a success, but to be a successful human being, right? Like have a successful day, to have a good day.
Yes, or even just to be gentle with yourself. We're so mean, right? We
Yeah.
say so many hard things to ourselves. We're not even aware of how hard we are on
Yeah.
ourselves if we didn't have the kind of day we planned to have, or dot, 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 dot.
Whatever. Yeah.
So even that, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, that's a huge success. If you
Yeah.
go to bed at night and go, I was kind and gentle to the people in my world. I didn't lose my anger. I feel good about my day. I accomplished one thing. Some
Mhm.
days we accomplish nothing, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
I'm like, just to be forgiving with the self. I'm so happy you mentioned that, because that
Yeah.
is really
Be- and everybody that's listening, like all the people that are listening, have different lives, different lifestyles. And I think also there's people at different stages in life. Like now you're at a certain stage, I'm at a certain stage, and other people listening might be at a different stage. And so sometimes they might think like, how am I going to get an hour earlier? And I have these kids, and so it's wonderful that we're talking about this, and it's just bringing it up and showing everybody that we all need to encourage each other to continue doing these things to make it a great day. So that's really wonderful.
I add something because it's a
Please.
I need to work at, and I'm like I said, I've been around the block already, but you mentioned different stages, and it's really so important. Thank you for the reminder that we are all at different stages, because like I'm talking to you from here now, and I told you, like, if you came to me when I was just turning 40, it was a basket case. No, I was really a mess.
Mm.
I was really miserable. I was mean. I was all those things. Like, I don't want to be that anymore. But it took me 20 years to meet me now, Charlene, this person now. So that's really, really important. And also, I'm so happy you mentioned moms and busy, hectic lives, or just running your caregiving a parent and having
Anything.
a job, whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes life is not easy and it's too full. You don't have to take an hour. You can just breathe. Literally,
Right.
just call yourself home to breath. It does.
Exactly. Exactly. Sometimes it's like if you're really, really, really busy, 10 or 15 minutes makes a big difference. Like when I used to work all the time, 7 days a week, sometimes I just had to take off an afternoon, 2 hours walking downtown for me, and it was perfect.
There
So
you
it's,
go.
it's all relative.
And
Yeah.
it's knowing that. It's like just
Yeah.
asking yourself, what do I need?
Yeah. Yeah. So that could be a
Yeah.
whole other podcast. And so we're coming to the end of this one. And I guess if you can just say, maybe if you have like a little story about something about ghostwriting or about your experience working with customers, with clients, if there was anything that, that really you want to share that brings you a heartwarming moment or.
I I would like to say, first of all my clients in their
Mhm.
own way, because they are so unique, it's true. I am inspired by all of them, even the
Mm.
ones where it doesn't work out, where
Mhm.
we have to fire each other because like all journey somehow where it's just I'm not being helpful to them or what have you. But I just love the learning from
Yeah.
like even now talking to you, like that turns me on because I'm learning from you, even just the questions you ask or what have you. I love dialogue like this. So
I'm
I
glad.
really don't know how to answer that question. I have clients who went through hell and back and are warriors, and they inspire me as people more than anything. And just the desire to share their lives and put it in a book and put it in a public space, I find so brave. And I just want to keep meeting people like that. And one surprise I will add is that when I started this like 8 years ago or so, it was all women. I never thought about writing with men or for men at all. I'm like, they are so far behind on this spiritual journey and healing. Like, what am I going to, how am I going to help them? More and more men are
Yeah,
finding me, and the more and more
fantastic.
men are open to talking. And I don't know if any men are going to be listening to your podcast. I have
I
no
don't
idea
know.
what your listenership is, but I love you all who are, seeing in themselves, wait a minute, I'm allowed to be vulnerable. I'm allowed to not be perfect.
Great.
I love that. So that's
So
me.
I'm afraid we're going to get kicked off here, but I want to thank you so much. And I'll put your website, in the comments so that people can have them. And we can do this again. It's
I
always
would
fun.
be fine to do that again. Thank you so much for
Thank
inviting
you. You're welcome. You're
me.
welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Take care.
You too, Charlene.
Okay, bye. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm really excited about this interview, and I hope you enjoy it too.